So going on from a playoff team to a playoff contender in the Celtics, right at a day or two after the show I did last week, the Celtics were practically perfect from the field. They beat the Heat in Miami 143 to 110. It was something where you're watching this going, this is what the Celtics can look like. When they are on, I am telling you, they are on. And then 2 days later in Boston, they played the Clippers. And this is what you saw. The stats on the left read the stats against Miami, going 51 for 80, shooting 63.7% from field goal, shooting 22 of 40 from 3-point, going 19 of 20, 95% from free throws, right? Shooting 55% from three, 64% from field goal. And then they get versus the Clippers, who they blew out in LA, mind you. This time, though, on their own home court, it's like they didn't show up. Going 36 of 100. Obviously, it's a 36% field goal percentage. Going 10 of 40. So back-to-back games shooting 40%. I mean, 40%. Shooting 40 3-point attempts. And this time getting only 25%, which is abysmal. And then at least only missing 2 free throws out of 16, going 14 to 16, shooting 87.5%. It was a different game. It was a wildly different game. And it tells me something. For this Celtics team, man, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. The Celtics are the highest 3-point shooting attempts, have the highest 3-point shooting attempts in the NBA. Even with the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. The Celtics still shoot more threes. And I didn't understand what I was watching when I was watching that game. Because I'm going, what happened to this team? What happened to a Celtics team 2 days ago, one game prior, were on fire. Couldn't miss. And that just goes to show when you have an off day, God, you have an off day. And it wasn't even close. LA just ran away with it. And the one other thing I want to talk about was Tatum and his emotional state. Because he picked up his 8th technical in 43 games in that Clippers game. Now, I will admit that technical a couple weeks ago when he hung on the rim because he had to control himself against Denver. He had to control himself so that way he doesn't go swinging right into the crowd. That was a dumb technical. That was a really dumb technical, and that had nothing to do with everything else. But with him picking up his 8th technical, I really was confused because I felt like Tatum has this really calm demeanor. He's the complete opposite of Kevin Garnett, right? He's the complete opposite of Kevin Garnett, who is, just screaming. He's vocal. He's all of this. Tatum's not. He's very subdued. Now, of course, when he gets onto the court, things change a little bit. But having 8 technicals in 43 games, I looked back at all the last 2 seasons because that's when he racked up his most technicals. And so far, Tatum is on a pace to have the most technical fouls in his career, not only in his career, but over a span that is very quick. Because last season, for every 1 technical he got, he played 6.2 games. And then in 21-22, 2 seasons ago, he had, for every 1 technical that got called on him, was in every 5.8 games. Now, if you do the math, 8 technicals, 43 games over 8 technicals is 5.375 games he collects one technical. So right now, he's collecting more technicals than I've ever seen. And it didn't help when they played the Pelicans a couple days later because they were 8.5-point favorites. The Celtics were. They went down 17 and found a way to come back to win 118 to 112. So again, you're kind of sitting there going, well, all right, hey, at least they got the win. You know, the win is the most important thing in the NBA. It's not like the NHL where an overtime, loss, you get, 1 point. No, you have to win or you lose in the NBA. And so when Joe Mazzulla was asked in his post-game press conference about the sluggish start and, you're coming off that bad game against the Clippers and you do this, kind of like, what the hell, right? And Joe, talk about a guy who's, I don't think he has a anger issue, but he snapped, man. He snapped real quick, saying, quote, I think it's just the general narrative of like, it's supposed to go our way all the time. There's like this sense of entitlement where we're supposed to play amazing basketball every quarter, every game. And that's just not how it works. End quote. Well, as much as I'd like to sit here and say that, Joe, I agree with you. I agree that you are afforded bad games, off days, off quarters. I can't, because this is Boston. You're the best team in the league by far. And honestly, probably the most talented to some degree. You can make a case for the Clippers and, the Nuggets, but by far, I think the Celtics have the most talent. And it's unhealthy to expect you to play great every night. I think the reason why this question was asked and framed the way it was because you had that awful, awful loss against the Clippers 2 days prior. So you have that bad loss, fine. Hey, you just didn't have it. Obviously, like I showed you here, 36% field goal percentage, 25% from three. I mean, you didn't have it. That's fine. But then 2 days later, you fall down 17 to a Pelicans team that is just scraping to hold on to their playoff spot right now. They are 8th in the Western Conference. A couple losses, and all of a sudden they're completely out of the playoff picture. And 8th is the play-in game. 8th is the playing game. There's no guarantee there. So if you have that, right, you're going to get asked this question. You're going to get asked this question of, well, what, you have, this team has high expectations. Okay, you had your bad loss. We understand. We'll give it to you. But then you're playing this Pelicans team that's 8th in the Western Conference, hanging on for dear life to that spot. And you go down 17 and squeak out this victory, and then you want to snap at us for asking this simple question? Again, this is Boston. If you're the Red Sox, yeah, our expectations are, here, Celtics expectations, Red Sox expectations. I'm going all the way to the floor, right? So when you're up here, yeah, we expect you to play well every night. We afford you, a couple games here and there. But when you try to stockpile them, that's where it gets a little concerning. And then, like I said, you get murdered by the Clippers the game before, and then you go down 17 to this Pelicans team. Like, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? Good thing you got that win. because then you'd really be pissed at the questions that the reporters would have been asking. And then, of course, last night, just a quick recap. The reason why I talk about how the Celtics seem to be falling back to bad habits is because they jumped out to a 81-66 lead in the first half against the Pacers and coasted the whole third quarter. And you can tell because they got blown out that third quarter, 37-25. And the Pacers came right back and tied it up. Now, the Pacers tied it up ultimately with some hell of a down the stretch type of play, and Tatum coming up with 2 blocks in the final 30 seconds. I mean, you were able to squeak away a victory against Indiana as well. But again, falling into some bad habits, this has been the Celtics' MO dating back to the last 2 years. You know, they jump out, they get off hot, they think that they're gonna, run the team out of the building at halftime. And then are like, yeah, this team's gonna give up. We're good. They're gonna fall. That's exactly what they're gonna do. But then they don't. Because that other team realizes, well, hey, guess what? We still have 24 minutes left of this game. We still have plenty of possessions left in this game, and we're only down, 15. We're only down 18 against this Boston team, who we know is gonna, give up the third quarter. Yeah, let's take advantage of it. Let's go. Let's see if we can get this within 2. Hell, let's see if we can get it within 10. And then they tie the game. Like, seriously? So, again, Celtics get the win, but ever since that Nuggets loss, this team hasn't looked good. This team hasn't looked right. And yes, I know that Porzingis is, back and forth trying to deal with his injuries. He did play for the first time against the Pacers last night. But there is I think, massive question mark, that the Celtics team has to answer. And they have matured. I'll give them that much. They have matured. They do look better without Marcus Smart, without Grant Williams. Thank God they're off this team. But they still are falling into those same old traps. They're still falling into those same old habits. And I look at this and I go, yeah, there is something to be said about that. But while the Celtics still have several more games before their All-Star break,